I'm looking now at Chapter 3, page 55 in my book, which is 3rd edition. Might be a different page in your edition. Mine says operators at the top, and it has a table in the middle, Table 3.1 of arithmetic operators. So arithmetic is a noun indicating a field of study, but it's also an adjective, a kind of an operator, arithmetic operator. I'm going to create a new file in brackets. We'll start putting some PHP code in here. So there are 5 different arithmetic operators: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulo, or division remainder. They're also including increment and decrement as arithmetic operators, but they're really a duplication of the addition and subtraction. We create a variable, $a, and we could give it a 5. We could create another variable b. Oh, my indent is working now. Something happened. A variable b, and give it the value 6. Sure. And then we could echo a plus b. Save this. I'm going to call this, go to htdocs folder. For you Windows users, that would be the www folder inside the WAM folder. I'm going to call it 3b.php because I've already got a chapter 3. I'll open a browser window, move it to localhost 8888, and there's my file, chapter 3b, and there's my number 11. That's the sum. Cool, we're good. We could, now after we've done this, we could echo A, and we could echo B. Oh, look at that. My indent turned right back off again. I can't tell what is going on with that indent. All right. So I add A and B together. I get 11. A and B are undisturbed. They're still 5 and 6. So I can copy this. I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting. I could subtract them. I get -1, which you might expect, and I could multiply them. And maybe I'll get something around 30. And I could divide them. Let's see what we get when we divide. We divide, we get 0.83, which is 5/6. So now it looks like we've been dealing with integers up until now, but when we divided, we did get a floating point number. This is unlike some languages like C and C++ and maybe Java that are strongly typed, and once you've declared a number as an integer, there is such a thing as integer division, and 5 divided by 6 would actually come back as 0 because it goes in 0 times and has a remainder of 5. But with PHP, it's much more flexible. It can convert these numbers from integer to floating point very quickly, and it doesn't care about the types as much. As a matter of fact, internally, it may actually be storing all of what look like integers as floating point, especially if they're small integers. So now we could change A and B to different values. For example, we could have A be 42. Let's make A 42. And then when I recompile, it's going to redo all of those calculations. 42 plus 6 is 48. And 42 minus 6 is 36. 42 times 6 is 252. 42 divided by 6 is 7. Let's change this again. Let's just make it a nice even number. Let's make it 50. I'm trying to type 50. All right, so their sum is 56. Their difference is 44. When you multiply them, you get 300, and when you divide them, you get 8.3. Now, what if you really wanted something like you'd get in C++, which would be, I really wanted to get 8. Well, that could be a little difficult, but if you wanted to find out how much was left over after the division, you could do something like this. We use the percent sign, and we say, what's left over after we divide? Well, what this is saying is it's actually dividing 8 times, and there's 2 left over, which sounds reasonable. The extra 0.333 times 6 is 2. So pretty much that's saying that when we divide 50 by 6, it goes into the 48 part of the 56 times, and there's 2 left over. Now, if we wanted to actually get if we wanted to get 8 even instead of 8.3, well, then we'd have to apply a function. We might have to do some conversions. We might have to do some truncation, rounding some numbers. That's something we will learn in the future, so we won't need that now. So all of these arithmetic operators are verbs, but you notice they don't disturb the original A and B. Instead of echoing, we could actually do something like this. We could say C equals A plus B, and then echo, come on, C. And we're still going to get all the same thing. So we could do all the same thing here. We can, instead of echoing the result of the arithmetic operation directly, we could actually save that value in a variable and then just print out the variable. I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting here. That's why it seems like things are going pretty quick. So I'm reloading and everything is still the same. This would be a more typical way of doing something like this. Assign the value to a variable. It doesn't cost anything to do that in terms of time. Or really space. Especially on a small scale like this, it's just one variable. So we can also do things like, right now C is 2. We could do something like this. We could add 17 to it, and then echo. Then we get 2 plus. So we didn't actually say C equals C plus 17. We just did plus equals 17. And then we could do the same thing with subtraction. We could subtract a number, like 37. That might give us a negative number. And then we can actually multiply. So we can do a times equals. Multiply that number by negative 2. It's negative 18. We'll multiply it by negative 2. It's 36 now. So you can see every time we do one of these plus equals, or times equals, it's actually changing the value of C. We could divide by 3, and I think we'll get something like 12. So these are this is a shortcut for C equals C divided by 3, and so on. All of these are shortcuts. So these are all in table 3.2. The textbook. In the textbook, it does not actually show that they're putting a semicolon at the end of the line. But if you don't put a semicolon at the end of the line, it has no idea what you're trying to do. Every one of these lines needs to have a semicolon at the end. I deleted it. My whole page crapped out. So now there are also some comparison operators. So because we have a few sections here, I'm going to put in some comments so we can see what we're doing. Arithmetic operators. And then here we have what we call arithmetic assignment operators, because they are doing arithmetic and assigning the value at the same time. Now let's do some comparison operators. So the comparison operators are equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal, less than or equal. So we could actually say echo A equals B, something like this. And then we could put a blank line here. So a blank line would be this line without the C in it. And it actually doesn't print anything. We could say echo A not equal to B, and and my page disappeared. I don't know why that happened. I didn't do something illegal here. Oh. So when you use the echo statement, it likes you to put parentheses around this. So it printed 1 when I asked if A is not equal to B. So remember, A is 50, B is 6, so they are not the same. So if I say not equals, it prints 1 because it's true that they are not equal to each other, which sounds counterintuitive because we're asking not. But if we say, are they equal to each other, the answer is false, and it doesn't print anything. So it's really hard to see whether they are equal or not. So in order to do this, we could put in something like this if statement instead. And the if statement, if A equals B, we're going to print equal. Otherwise, which would be else, we're going to say not equal. So then it will actually tell us whether they're equal or not. Because the problem is when you try to print the value false, it just prints nothing. And when you try to print the value true, it prints the number 1. That's very confusing. So this is a way of actually printing out a string that tells us whether they're equal or not. And it also uses an if statement, which only acts if this first statement is true. So if A is equal to B, it is going to execute this line. Otherwise, it's going to execute this other line. So these if statements are one of the basic foundational blocks of PHP and any programming language, and we'll learn a little bit more about them in the early part of Chapter 4, and we will be covering them in detail this week. So now we have another assignment operator, and that is A not equal to B. So sometimes we want to know specifically, is it not equal? And in this case, what we're going to print out is going to be the opposite. If it's true that they're not equal, then we're going to print not equal. So don't let the word true equate to the word equal, because in this case, we're checking for equality. And in this case, we're checking for not equality. Now, one thing that people do is they'll forget that this has to be 2 equal signs right here when you're comparing. So 1 equal sign means that you're making an assignment. So I deleted that equal sign, and now everything's all messed up. So this is an assignment, and actually what I've done is I've changed A so that it's equal to 6. And then when I get down here, they are equal. So another way to think about this, so make sure that you have the double equals here. And another way to think about this one is to think if A is not equal to B, then they're not equal. Otherwise, they're actually not equal. If A, I think I'm not saving. So yes, yeah, in both cases they're not equal, so it's printing the right thing. Now we can check for A less than B, in which case we want to say that A is less than B, and then the else is not A is greater than B, and it's just A is not less than B. So A is not less than B because A is 50 and B is 6. And then, of course, we can do greater than. And then we would say A is greater than B or not greater than B. So it says A is not less than B and A is greater than B. And we can also do greater than or equal or less than or equal. And I hope that it is obvious to you what those might do. Now we do have some logical operators, and actually a great example of a logical operator would be and or. And there are also not, which we'll use, and which we've already been using right here, not equals. So we're already using that. But we might want to ask is maybe we want to add another variable up here and say we'll have a variable. I've already used C, so maybe I'll use a D and I'll assign it 14. Well, what if we want to figure out whether A, B, and D are all in order? So we might want to ask if A is less than B and B is less than C, then, whoops, we might echo the numbers, and this should be D. The numbers are in order. Otherwise, the numbers are not in order. So it's going to say the numbers are not in order because they don't increase from 50 to 6 to 14 because 50 is less. What if we wanted to find out if 50 is the largest number? We could say if A is greater than B and A is greater than D, this is different, then we could say A is the biggest number. Otherwise, doesn't mean A is the smallest number. It just means A is not the biggest number. Oh, I forgot to print this blank line. I got a blank line up here somewhere. Oh, here. All of these should have something at the end here to make sure they get printed on a separate line. There really is no easy way to do that. So A is the biggest number. It's bigger than B, and it's bigger than D. We could also check for or. So in order for this whole expression to be true, both sides of it have to be true. This is the first side, and this is the second side. So in order for A to be the biggest number, A has to be bigger than B, and A has to be bigger than D, and then it is the biggest number. In this case, that both sides have to be true. A has to be bigger than B, and B has to be A has to be less than B. B has to be less than D, and this is not true. But because one side may be true, but the other side is not true. Now, or is different. Only one of them has to be true. So if we're looking at these numbers, maybe we're trying to figure out if Um, what could we be trying to figure out? An or. How about if we have another number here? We'll have another number, E. E, I can't type. 14. Maybe we want to know if two of the numbers are equal. So we could say if B equals D or D equals E, then we could echo two of the numbers are the same. Otherwise, we would say no two of the numbers are the same. And let's put in Oh, I used and. So what we want is or, which is two vertical bars. So two of the numbers are the same because in order for two of the numbers to be the same, they don't all have to be the same. But I ask, is B equal to D or is D equal to E? Well, D is equal to E, so one side is true, so the whole expression is true. So the comparison operators, we have equal, not equal, and then these ones are logical operators, and this one is and this one is and this one is or. So in this case, if either side of the or is true, this one is false, but this one is true, so the whole expression is true. So we've seen some of the things in the rest of the chapter. We've got some stuff with strings. Let's look at strings in the next lecture because we've gone quite a ways in here with our operators.